Full house. We actually have Warren Central in the house tonight. So we're going to see some real ball players, best in the state of Kentucky. Hooah. But we're going to do a little countdown. I've got a thumbs up from Laura in the back. And then we will begin. All right, there we are. So I'm going to do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the city of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Regular meeting, City Hall, May 2nd, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. We're going to begin this evening with the invocation and pledge allegiance, and I'm going to turn it over to Sue Perigin, Commissioner.
And I'm going to introduce Reverend Whitlock from New Beginnings Christian Church. And Reverend Whitlock, I took a bunch of notes downstairs and left them down there, of course. But this is a community leader, Christian-based community leader in our town that is extremely involved. He's been past president of the NAACP. He's been a part of Barren River Area Development District. He has his own church, and he has led. I can't remember everything that you did, but it's a long list. And we also have a pretty big honor having him here tonight, and a little something we're going to do later as a group for him. So without further ado, thank you very much for coming and leading us in prayer this evening.
Let's pray. Father, we're so grateful and thankful to be a part of a community that's so diverse and have leadership that stands. We thank you, Lord, because Bowling Green is a jewel, and we thank you for all the officials who've been elected, and we lift them up. We thank you for our police department and all those involved with the safety, the fire department, and all those who put their lives on the line to make sure our city stays the way it is. So, Lord, today we lift up them and help us to always honor our elected officials and help them along the way. The city management, the manager, and all those in office, we thank you and we praise you. Lord, continue to give us a vision for this city that goes beyond what we see, but what we feel. Let it be. It's in the name of Jesus Christ I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Whitlock. Thank you, Commissioner Perigin. At this time, would one of our distinguished police officers please let Warren Central into the room? Central. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the state championship in the house. Warren Central's varsity boys basketball team. Coach Unseld, well done. Would you like to say a few words?
It was just a great moment to represent Warren County and Bowling Green. We had a great group of kids. They represented you well on and off the court. We appreciate everybody's support.
We appreciate you. Boys, congratulations. We treasure you, and what you've accomplished is something that you will never, ever forget for the rest of your lives. We'll be telling tales and stories and singing songs of this moment and this time of Warren Central taking the second championship. But, Coach, you did a great job, Warren Central. Carlos and our alma mater, so we're very proud of you as well. But you speak a lot for volumes for Bowling Green, so thank you. And we'd like to get a photo with you, if possible. Ashley, so y'all can come up around here, around the back, make us look short for a second.
be the mayor?
Congratulations. All right. I don't have to duck. Congratulations. All right, at this time, Mr. Meisel, do you have any comments you'd like? Let's do a roll call, please, Mrs. Jackson.
Commissioner Beasley Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Perigin.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Mayor Alcott.
Here. Mr. Meisel, do you have any comments?
Just a couple, Mayor. First of all, if you are in the audience and want to sign up to make public comments at the end that are unrelated to an item on our agenda, please sign the register in the back of the room so we can get you at the end of our regular session. Secondly, Mayor, Commissioners, I need to make a request to withdraw item number 3, Municipal Order 2023-84. It's the third item on your agenda. This still needs some work left to be done on it before we take action.
Get a vote for that?
No.
Okay, all right. It's too bad. Looking forward to that one. I think we all are in full agreement, but understand. Thank you. All right, our first item is our approval of minutes for regular meeting, April 18th, 2023.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Bailey. Is there any discussion? There's none. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2023-82.
Municipal order approving the promotions of Jason Scott to the position of Assistant Police Chief, Jared Maris to the position of Police Captain, and James Lewis to the position of Police Sergeant in the Police Department.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by, Sue Perigin. Thank you. Mr. Meisel.
While our Lieutenant Colonel Bowles, Deputy Chief Bowles, is coming up to make recommendations, I'd like to take just a second to recognize what's caused this domino effect here tonight. That's the retirement of Major Matt Edwards. I believe Matt was with us for 22 years, and Matt did a lot of things for the Bowling Green Police Department. He was a great servant leader for the city and our community, and I'd just like to thank Major Matt Edwards for his years of service. He left some big shoes to fill, and but we're excited about what Deputy Chief Bowles is getting ready to recommend to you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Meisel, Mayor Board, Commissioners. Thank you all. Chief Delaney is unable to be here tonight as he's currently out of town. This trip was scheduled actually long before these promotions were to be made. I know he's very proud of all three of these candidates and sends his congratulations. And I'm very honored to be standing before you on Chief Delaney's behalf to submit these candidates for promotion. As we begin, if you don't mind, Mr. Meisel, I'd like to take a minute also to honor and thank Major Matt Edwards for his total of 22 years of service to the city of Bowling Green. Major Edwards began his career at age 19 as a cadet and was hired as an officer at age 21. He served in many capacities his time with the city, serving as a patrol officer, a RAD officer, a member and commander of the critical response team, a training unit commander, a firearms instructor, a LiDAR instructor, and a physical fitness instructor. Major Edwards also served in all 4 divisions as an assistant chief, as well as the Bowling Green Law Enforcement Academy commander for classes 2, 3, and 4. He also served on the Human Rights Commission and also on Life's Better Together nonprofit organization. So as or as the city manager Mazel said, we do have some big shoes to fill, and I owe a debt of gratitude to Major Edwards. So as one chapter ends for Major Edwards, it allows for a new chapter to begin for these three candidates for promotion. As Chief Delaney has said many times, one of the hardest aspects of his job is making promotions. As a true testament to his leadership and the standards of excellence at BGPD, there are excellent and qualified candidates at every level of the promotion process, each of whom could be promoted and serve our community well. At the end of the day, the Chief Delaney has made the tough decision, and I bring forward to you on his behalf these three selections, one for Sergeant, Captain, and Assistant Chief. First is a recommendation for Sergeant, Officer James Lewis. Officer Lewis began his career as a cadet in 2005 and was hired as an officer on November 19th, 2007. He is a graduate of Warren Central High School and is a dragon, and also attended Western Kentucky University. Officer Lewis is currently a canine handler and has been partnered with his partner Axel since 2020. He has served as a police training officer, a member of the peer support team, honor guard, as well as several other units. Officer Lewis has been serving as an acting sergeant since August of 2022 and also a member of the employee committee and is currently a member of the City of Bowling Green Leadership Development Program, also known as LEAD Bowling Green. Officer Lewis has brought with him his wife, Whitney, son River, daughter Wren, and many other family members and friends. I present to you Officer James Lewis for consideration for promotion to sergeant. Next is a recommendation for Captain, Sergeant Jared Maris. Sergeant Maris was hired on November 7th, 2005, was promoted to sergeant in July of 2018. Sergeant Maris is a graduate of WKU with a bachelor's degree in sociology. Sergeant Maris completed an internship with BGPD as part of his studies at WKU and decided to apply with BGPD upon graduation. Sergeant Maris has served in the Criminal Investigations Division as both a detective and detective sergeant, as well as a patrol sergeant. Sergeant Maris is a Kentucky law enforcement certified instructor and currently teaches in the Bowling Green Law Enforcement Academy. Sergeant Maris is a firearms instructor, a former member of the Critical Response Team, and a graduate of the Academy of Police Supervision at the Department of Criminal Justice Training. Sergeant Maris has brought with him his wife, Autumn, daughters Riley and Josie, son Jackson, many family members and friends. I present to you Sergeant Jared Maris for consideration of promotion to captain. And last, but certainly not least, is the recommendation for Major and Assistant Chief, Captain Jason Scott. Captain Scott was hired on July 19th, 2004. He is also a graduate of Western Kentucky University with a bachelor's degree with a major in sociology. While attending WKU, Captain Scott took an introduction to law enforcement class taught by retired Chief Waltrip, and that began his journey of joining BGPD. Captain Scott was promoted to sergeant in 2013 and captain in 2019. Captain Scott is a certified Harley-Davidson motor instructor and just completed instructing this 2-week class for 2 new motor officers this past month. Captain Scott was also a detective with the Warren County Drug Task Force and is a graduate of the Academy of Police Supervision and Criminal Justice Executive Development Leadership Trainings, both offered at the Department of Criminal Justice Training in Richmond. Captain Scott has brought with him his wife, Kenitha, daughters Kaylin and Briley, and his son, Cannon, many other family members and friends. I present to you Captain Jason Scott for consideration of promotion to Major Assistant Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Bowles. Thank you for the families being here. You see your family Blue is here. Your real families are here. We're very proud of you at this moment. And Commissioners, I know we have the best police force in the entire state of Kentucky, if not further than that. So we're proud of you and what you represent, the integrity you bring to the community. but more importantly, you bring trust to our community, and you've earned that trust. So congratulations to our police department as a whole, and to see these fine officers continue up the chain and what you're doing for us in our community. So thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Officers, would you stand up with this with your families? And I'll say yes. Congratulations. All right, thank you very much. Our next item is municipal order number 2023-83.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2023-44 for Fire Station Number 5 and Training Center Construction Project from Scott Murphy and Daniel of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $16 million, excuse me, $1,310.
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Mizel.
Thank you, Mayor. This project is something we've been working on for some time. This is the big project, the $16 million for the Station 5 and our new Public Safety Training Center that will go up on Porter Pike. And before I get too much further, there's someone I'd like to recognize here in the room tonight. It's Dave Hayner. Dave, would you stand for a minute? David is our facilities maintenance manager and has spent hours upon hours looking at these plans and specs for both Station 8 that we voted on last meeting, along with this one as well. When the specs came in and the plans, I mean, these things were like this thick, and Dave looked through about every page of them. So I'd like to thank Dave for all of his work on this. He worked closely with Katie and Chief Delaney, Chief Brooks, and the deputy chiefs, and on down the line, and made sure that everything got in this project that needed to get in. IT, Danita's here, played a big role in this and in planning for this facility. And so, without further ado, we went out for bid, and we got two bids, one from Scott Murphy and Daniel LLC and one from Weir Constructors. And the winning bid goes to Scott Murphy and Daniel for $16,001,310, and that included two add-ons. We are going to have the four-fold bay doors included on Station 5, and we are planning to add an emergency radio communication enhancement system in Station 5 in the training center as well. Dave is here, can answer all of your questions on this, along with Danita, Deputy Chief Bowles, and probably many others in the room. This has been a very huge team effort, and I'm very proud of our team for putting all this together and bringing it home to you today. And we got a really good bid on this. This came in at roughly $441 a square foot, a little bit better than we expected, and I'd like to thank Scott Murphy, Daniel, for their sharpening their pencils, and as Mr. Murphy said, laying back their ears for this project, for this bid. So we recommend Scott Murphy and Daniel at the $16 million figure. Katie can answer any questions about the funding, but we think we've got it all together and are ready to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mizel. Commissioners, would you like? Yeah, absolutely.
I think for the public, I don't want to put you on the spot there, Penny, but she leads our law enforcement academy, and it's a premier law enforcement academy. And can you just tell the public why that is so important to us in our recruiting efforts and what we're doing?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We've been very fortunate to have, this is our 5th class that just started last week. But we share the same space at the police department, again, which we're very grateful for. But there's a constant juggling of rooms, and there's a finite amount of space there. Our training staff is growing, the needs of our community are growing, and the number of officers that we can train are growing. So we're very, very appreciative and very excited about this opportunity to have our own facility. Again, it will draw even more recruits to Bowling Green. We have our own academy, again, where the officers can go home every night. They don't have to travel to Richmond. But in a brand-new facility that's solely dedicated to training, will just give the environment and set the stage and the standard for training in our area and probably throughout the state.
Yeah, I do understand that once we have our complement of officers, that we could actually bring in other agencies and help them with their training needs. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Just as an example, this same week, the Department of Criminal Justice Training has brought a in-service training for our officers in surrounding areas. There's 50 officers in that class in our community room. And so during this week, the academy had to move out of that room and move to another room. So if we have that dedicated, both for the fire department too, I'm speaking on both hats, even though I can only technically speak for the police department, but for the fire department as well, and have their own dedicated space. It really is needed, and it would really take our training to the next level.
Thank you.
One follow-up, and I'm not sure if you're the right person to answer this question, but just because the price tag is so big at $16 million, if you or anyone else on the team could just sort of just to kind of describe for the community all the different parts of, why this is such a big project, of all the things that are going to be in this training center.
Sure. So it's both a fire station and a police station. I think probably Katie can
Dave, you want to come
and
up?
Dave too. But basically, there will be a dedicated training area that's going to have our own mat room, our own physical fitness area, classrooms, and then for the fire side as well.
Pretty much it. I mean, then we're at a full fire station. It's also going to be a storm-rated facility. We changed some things around after the tornado event and everything. So another dispatch area is going to be there. Another server area is going to be there. So we'll have more redundancy with throughout the city, as part of this project.
Good questions, Commissioners. This is exciting because when we had the storm, we have a primary location, that's our police department, and all forms of government came to our police station, and we're in the Raymer Center, and that room was well utilized. It was perfect. But in the case of Mayfield, they lost their city. What we have here is just like a military operation. We have a secondary emergency operations center to operate out of that's storm ready, up to 100-mile-plus-hour winds. So, we can train the facility depending on location or depending on what's happening, or if it's a train derailment or something of nature where we have to make major operations, or maybe even simultaneously be in two different locations at one time. So the Emergency Operations Center is there. The dedicated, we have a dedicated academy for our police, a dedicated academy for our fire. They are able to get all those local directions. And then as we know, as commissioners, that we have a need for 80 more police and fire positions in the next 4 years as we grow to a city almost the size of 90,000 by the year 2030. So those 80 people that are going to be training are going to be able to utilize this facility. So this was great vision, great work. We appreciate the internal work that it's taken to make a successful academy organically, but this is the next level, and congratulations on this effort. All right, commissioners. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. All right. Municipal order number 2023-85.
Municipal order authorizing the submission of an application for Homeland Security grant funds through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security for the purchase of firewall appliances for the Information Technology Department in the amount of $166,812.34.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Meisel.
The IT department is wishing to submit an application with the Homeland Security Grant Program for $166,812. This is a no-match grant, 100% funding from the Kentucky Homeland Security, or from Homeland Security Grant Program. IT, Danita is here with us tonight. Danita Weeks, Director of IT, would like to use this for 3 firewall appliances, and they would come with 5-year licensing subscriptions for any threats of malware, protect us against that sort of thing. Primarily at the police department, there would be a primary and a secondary firewall for cybersecurity protection, and these would provide us with advanced visibility of any threats coming in. The 5-year licensing subscription is also an important part of this, with detecting, blocking, tracking, analysis, targeting, persistent malware that we battle each and every day. I've heard that 85% of the emails that come into the city roughly are either junk, spam, or malicious, dangerous emails that we filter out and we block and protect our infrastructure with. And I'd like to thank IT, Danita and her staff for all they do in that regard. So we'd like to submit for this grant, 166-812, to be utilized IT department, mainly for the purposes of public safety. And a lot of this would go in at the new public safety training facility up at Porter Pike. Nick Cook worked on this grant with Danita Weeks. They can answer any detailed questions you might have tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Meisel. Any questions, comments? All right, none at this time. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey. Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2023-86.
Municipal order authorizing the submission of an application for Homeland Security grant funds through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security for the purchase of a utility terrain vehicle for the police department in the amount of $45,664.07.
So moved.
Second?
By Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Hill. Mr. Meisel.
This is another opportunity from Homeland Security. This is another no match requirement, 100% funding. This one is for our police department. They would like to purchase a Polaris Range Utility Terrain Vehicle UTV to use during special events, also to use for search and rescue missions. This would have come in really handy during the tornado with the terrain and all that as well. This thing can cross creeks, bodies of water, get to places that they can't get to with cruisers and their Durangos or whatever. Also would provide first aid and medical treatment in hard-to-reach areas as well. Nick is here as well as Deputy Chief Bowles to answer any questions on this purchase. Again, 100% funding, no match required, hoping to get this grant.
Mr. Meisel, questions? None. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey. Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2023-87.
Municipal order authorizing the submission of a grant application for funding through the 2023 Community-Oriented Policing Services Hiring Program from the U.S. Department of Justice in an amount up to $500,000.
Second?
By Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Meisel.
So this is, you all have heard of the COPS grant. We went after this a year or so ago. This is through DOJ, and we could get 4 additional police officers. It's not 100% funding. There is a match, but it does cover 35% for 3 years, which would equate to about $500,000. And then we would match that with roughly $915,000 over that 3-year period, which equates to about a 65% match. This would be to go towards hiring additional police officers to complement our current staff, and this is kind of aligns with our 6-year staffing plan at BGPD, and would like your support on this. Again, Deputy Chief Bowles is here, can answer questions on this one. I think we have some time to submit on this, but Nick, would you want to get up and explain the deadlines and how the timing is going to work out?
The grant itself is actually due in a few weeks. I would expect to hear something by hopefully sometime late summer or fall. So,
Thank you, Nick. All right, any questions? None at this time. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey. Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2023-88.
Municipal order approving year 20 annual action plan of the Consolidated Plan for Community Development Block Grant, I'm so sorry, entitlement funding, and authorizing its submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
When I saw year 20 on this, it was kind of one of those moments, I can't believe we've been getting this for 20 years, but this is our annual CDBG money, and I look back and I think of all the good things we've been able to do with this funding. And for the FY24 year, we're actually getting a little bit more money, $799, $458. It's up from last year. The city allocates is going to allocate $640,000 of this to the Neighborhood Improvements Program in Census Block 102.1. This would be the third year of funding we're going to tack this onto. This is the area down in the Shake Rag area between Center, I think all the way to Chestnut or the bypass, I think all the way up to Second or Third, maybe more than that. Brent can correct me on that, but this will add to the pot for that project, bringing the 3-year funding plan to around a little over $1 million in funding. And in your packets, you have the memo from Brent and Nick that kind of breaks out the money. We're going to put a little over $1 million in affordable housing and neighborhood stabilization. We talked about that program last meeting, I think, the $7,500 per resident. And then we've got $700,000 for street and sidewalk improvements. And then on down would be, we're allowed to retain some money for admin costs, the $119. And then we're also recommending that we give $40,000 to the Bowling Green Human Rights Commission for the Fair Housing Education and Outreach Program. Nick and Brent held a public hearing on March 30th to review this plan. And that comment period has expired as of April 21st, and we are ready to get your action on this and move forward with year 20 plan of the CDBG program. Nick and Brent are here, can answer any of your questions on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mizel. Questions, commissioners?
I have a quick.
Sure.
I know the Shake Rag neighborhood is excited to hear kind of what has come together after your community meetings with them. So if you just even have a little bit of overview of some things that, we're hoping to be able to accomplish with these funds in that neighborhood.
So quickly, one of the big projects we've kind of had in the planning stages, hopefully we'll be moving forward soon with, is the road dot along College Street. So we did State Street going towards the river, doing a similar treatment back up. College Street from the Riverview back up to 6th. Also looking at, as part of that, looking at the beautification in that area, decorative signpost as part of that project. Also just improving the overall sidewalk amenities through there. So we built a new sidewalk along 5th Street from College to Center. That was a new construction there towards Roland Bland Park, but also fixing any deficiencies in sidewalks down in that whole area as you come up in that area. So that's really on the streetscape side. Of course, everybody's familiar, I think the commission is familiar with the properties that we purchased last year, the Moses properties, so we should have an RFP going out on that sometime soon. This summer, we've worked with our, one of the contracts you all provided was with ICF, so we've got them tasked with working on that RFP development and helping us through that, because we've got a lot of projects going on all at once. And so those are the two big ones, and of course, Live the Dream is kicking off their exterior property improvements. That's the one most people are most excited about, so people can apply through Live the Dream. I can't tell you the phone number and all that off the top of my head, but Live the Dream at the Housing Authority is taking the applications for those to get the $7,500 grants to the property owner to fix up the properties, make exterior improvements. And that's probably one of our most popular programs. That's not paid for with CDBG dollars, that's paid for based on the local general fund dollars that you all provide, and Katie and Jeff program out through the budget. But it's still very popular, just to help take care of those issues that kind of linger around properties that can easily be overlooked because $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 is hard to come by to make that investment, to make that type of project happen. And so it's a way to create that community pride and that sense of ownership in a piece of property. We're just helping kickstart that. So that's really the kind of big part of it. Until we know what the final end use of the Moses properties and the Southern Queen are going to be, we're kind of waiting till we find the right partner, and I can bring forth a recommendation on what that looks like. We've got them stabilized. We've worked with the African American Museum to curate some of the items that were found in there, some of the logbooks, some of those things. So we're still, trying to preserve that history and tell that story that was, woven into the fabric of this community from so many years ago. So it's not just about the sidewalks and the streets, it's about the stories and it's about the people, and that's what makes community special, and we're excited to be a part of that. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Brent.
Brent, just real
Yes.
quick, can you send us, I guess, the number that you were talking about so we
Yep.
can make it known to our constituents so they
Not a
can apply
problem.
for it?
I just can't tell you right off the top of my head, but
I
I'll be
understand.
glad to send it to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brent. No more questions? Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey. Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2023-8, first reading, non-binding.
Ordinance closing a public right-of-way. Ordinance approving the closing of an unimproved right-of-way located between 516 and 518 Regents Avenue.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Mizel.
This is a request we received from Planning and Zoning. There is a roughly 1,500 square feet of unimproved right-of-way fronting Regents Avenue that runs kind of parallel with Mimosa Alley, I think it is. And they are recommending that we close this unimproved right-of-way. And they had a public hearing, conducted discussion, and voted unanimously to recommend to you all that this be let go of, and I think it goes to the adjacent property owners. And, is Ben here? Okay. But this is unimproved, it's not paved. I think it's just an old right-of-way that showed up on the map between 516 Regents Avenue and 518 Regents Avenue that we don't need and can give up.
Thank you, Mr. Mizel. Questions? None at this time. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2023-89.
Municipal order approving and authorizing the mayor to execute sidewalk lease agreements to lease portions of city sidewalks.
Moved?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Hill. Mr. Mizel.
So I'm going to hand this off to Hillary. This is more or less some renewals of sidewalk lease agreements that we have downtown, probably since the entertainment district went into effect, and Hillary's been working on getting these back in shape the way they need to be, and I'm going to hand off to Hillary to explain kind of what's included in this item. Hillary?
Yes, these are several renewals. We did some renewals last year. I don't know if you all remember, just cleaning up some things, some different insurance forms. Some of you, I think, were on a commission several years ago where you decided that barriers would be a good idea downtown. So we've kind of tossed that around back and forth. COVID hit, businesses were struggling. It became hard to require people to spend thousands of dollars on these barriers. So last year, we did a couple of renewals, and we decided this year to go ahead and do the remainder with a kind of a clause in there that says, if at some point the city determines that we want to require barriers, then we will contact you. You agree to do that. We will give you a reasonable amount of time so that if we have that discussion again, then that is an option in the sidewalk leases, but it doesn't require them. So we updated Bowling Green Pipe and Cigar, Cliffs, Gerard's, and Spencer's. And then we have several new ones. The Kentucky Grand Hotel wanted one. They have the side, but they also had tables up front. Simply Ramen is a new business downtown. They wanted one. Copper Bar, which is where the office used to be, they wanted one. And I think that we had one other new one. So I think that this probably covers all of the ones that exist currently. Of course, if anyone comes up with a new one that they want to do, then I'll bring it to you all. But I think for now, we have everybody updated and all of the new businesses that have requested these before you. So
With the coming of the EDC, back in the day, there was the need to mark your lines and your territories and your pins in the sidewalk. That was your licensed alcohol premise. And if you stepped outside that premise, an officer would need to know whether you were in or out. But with the EDC, all that becomes a moot point now. All these are now members of that EDC, and so there's no really true need as there was in prior days for these barriers or these fences, I guess, for lack of a better term, that we had considered years ago. So that's why we decided, let's kind of back off that a little bit and give them some flexibility. So.
And some of it I know is aesthetics. It would look really nice, but we're trying to grow downtown, boom downtown. It's a hard thing to do for brand new businesses. So we decided to leave the option in there. If you all decide at some point you want to require it, then we certainly can readdress that.
I had a question last week, Hillary, about 440 Main, and their footprint is I assume that they have a lease to be
They do.
able to provide those extra seating outside of the restaurant.
They do.
And it's appropriate, it looks nice. But I just had a question as to how we could allow.
We updated their lease last year because they were kind of kick off the barriers, and he ordered them, and I don't think that they've ever come in to fit properly. I don't know. I need to ask him. But he also has an agreement with Barbara Stewart's to put tables in front of there and on the other side, an agreement as well. So he has an extended lease period based upon an agreement he made with his adjacent businesses, and that's part of his lease. And if any time those businesses chose to deny him permission, then that leased area would no longer be available.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And there is a lease from last year along with a map that has all that information.
These are yearly leases?
Well, they're yearly, but they auto-renew unless someone gives notice. So this should be the end of our updates, and anything else I bring to you should be new. Hopefully, we have more new businesses and more new leases.
Thank you, Hillary. Commissioners, any more? Okay, roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2023-90.
Municipal order dedicating and naming the West End Park to H.D. Carpenter Park.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Hill. I'm going to turn this over to the commissioner that introduced this, and that is Commissioner Sue Perigin.
Actually, it was me.
I apologize.
So,
Hey, Carlos, I apologize. I'm turning this over to the commissioner that introduced it, and that is Commissioner Carlos Bailey.
it is with great pleasure that I introduce Reverend Ron Whitlock, and he was the pastor at not State Street, but Trinity Baptist Church a long time ago. So I'm well aware of Mr. Whitlock and Reverend Whitlock, and the recent municipal order to dedicate the West End Park in honor of an incredible figure in Bowling Green, Kentucky's history, Dr. H.D. Carpenter. Dr. Carpenter played a pivotal role in promoting equality and justice for all through education, serving as the principal of the Rosenwald School, located across the street from Delafield School from 1923 to 1963. His daughter also served as principal at one time of the school. She continued his legacy of educational leadership and advocacy. Today, we honor Dr. Carpenter's commitment to education and his unwavering dedication to improving the lives of those in our community. So renaming the West End Park to H.D. Carpenter Park is a fitting tribute to this remarkable man and his contributions to our city. Thank you, Reverend Whitlock, for leading this effort to recognize the honor of Dr. Carpenter. Our city should come together as a community to celebrate this momentous occasion. And Reverend Whitlock, you've already stepped forward, but I was going to ask you if you'd like to come to the podium and to give us any more insight on Dr. Carpenter and the Rosenwald School.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say this to the manager. When they begin to get money from the Rosenwald, the community, Dr. H.D. Carpenter raised money to help build this. Isn't that a great way to do it for raising money? City manager would love that. I know he would if he could do that. But I wanted to bring that in. And H.D. Carpenter was such a important person, so much so that at the time, in the turn of the century there, the African-American church, the black church, was so important to the segregated community that everything went through the church. It got to the point that he was so powerful that the police department depended upon him to make sure things run right. In fact, the people would call him first before they called the police department. That's how important he was to that community. And so we're excited about this. Mr. Rosenwald was head of the Sears and Roebuck Company. He built over 5,000 schools in the South, segregated schools during the time of segregation. He started in 1917 all the way through to the time he died. And we're so excited that the first school in Warren County that was from the Warren County school system was the H.D. Carpenter School there on the end of, at the time it's called Brownslock Road. And being grads like Commissioner Bailey is and myself from the state champion Warren Central, I gotta put that in there again, Warren Central High School, we both are excited about the fact that the first segregated school for blacks in Warren County was this school. And so we're thankful and grateful. Also, the Warren County school system is in the process of putting up a marker for the location of that school, so we're excited about that too. This is a great moment for Bowling Green, and we're so excited about the Carpenter family and what they meant to the city of Bowling Green. He also was pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church, and such a strong person. The Delafield area was the industrial park of Bowling Green at the time. And so it was the only integrated section of the city of Warren, city and Warren County, where blacks and whites lived right next door to each other. And it stayed that way through years. And so, with honor, I'm so excited about this. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
Reverend Whitlock, Commissioner Bailey and I were so just in awe of the history that you brought to us a couple weeks ago, and we got right to work submitting this request to rename this park with the city clerk and the city manager, and we were so grateful that Commissioner Perigin joined us in renaming this park after H.D. Carpenter. And I just want to say personally to you, I'm so grateful that you have persisted through these many years. I know you've worked a long time to name this park after H.D. Carpenter, and it's just your witness in our community of being that persistent widow. You know, we could go on a sermon about this. It's just going to be so profound when I think about what this will mean to the neighborhood as the families walk through, learn about the history of what he did for the community during such a hard time where it was so divided. That sense of hope and persistence of that gift and hope that education brings, no matter the barriers that are there. And I'm just so grateful that with your leadership, we are getting to highlight the work of this community member. And just asking city manager when you think the timeline would be in terms of when we could have a ribbon cutting with the new name and how that would all work.
Very soon. Brent Belcher called me the other day, wanted to know the exact name, and so he could be working on the sign. One more comment I'd like to make. I'd also like to thank, this was a kind of a collaboration when we built the park. We did get a significant donation from Independence Bank, so their name has kind of been on the sign down there for years, but it's, we've always had the placard in, I think you call it a placard, inside the park, under wrap where it's protected from graffiti and all that, giving the story of the principal of H.D. Carpenter and telling a story. And I went down there just the other day and looked at it and read through it, and it's a great story. It's very, very well done, very interesting. And I think, but I would like to thank Independence Bank for their seed money for helping us getting that park built down there on Main Street. And so I think this is going to be a great name for that park, H.D. Carpenter. It's a lot better than West End. We weren't very creative at the time when it was put together. So thank you. Thank you so much for
We're so
bringing
glad
this.
that Bowling Green does not have a West End. We have a West Side.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Reverend.
I want to say just a couple words. I'm actually going to give a lot of credit to Mr. Jim Johnson over there, who called probably 3 or 4 months ago. I'd say, Jim, several months ago, and they're best buddies, and Jim asked me to take a look at it. I went down to the park. It's basically dedicated to H.D. Carpenter already with that big monument, the big historical monument. And then we've talked many times since then, and thank the mayor and Mr. Mizel for immediately agreeing to make that happen. So thank you all both for your dedication to our community, and you're right, it's the west side, and thank you.
We want to thank the commission too so much, and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Whitlock. Okay, Commission, let's make this official. Let's name this park. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes, the H.D. Carpenter Park is the newest named park in Bowling Green. Municipal Order Number 2023-91.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2023-39 for transit management and operational services from RATP Dev USA of Fort Worth, Texas, in the amount of $97.31 per revenue hour.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Hill. Mr. Mizel.
I'm not going to pretend to be smart and explain all of this to you. This is not in my wheelhouse. This is in Mr. Childers' wheelhouse, so I'm going to ask him to introduce this municipal order to you and explain what we're about to do and ask for your vote. So, Brent?
Thank you, Mr. Mizel. So this story doesn't really start just with this RFP. This story starts about 30 years ago, and I know Melinda's going to shiver whenever I say 30 years ago and start telling stories, but I'll be quick, I promise. 30 years ago, this community had no form of public transportation, no form of transit, no form of anything, okay, over 30 years ago. Community Action at that time recognized that there were people that didn't have the luxury of having vehicles, that had to walk or bum a ride or something and needed some form of assistance to get from place to place in this community. Now, you go back to 1993, our community was a much different place back then, right? It does not look like it does now. The size was different, the speed was different, the growth was different, but it was still a community of people that needed assistance. And so they came to the city at that point and said, hey, we want to do this. Will you help us? And the city said, yes, absolutely. We will provide some funding. We want to help people. And that was in 93, and that worked for several years until 2000 when the city population crossed over 50,000. And once the city of Bowling Green crossed that magic 50,000 mark, we became an entitlement community. That's why we have CDBG now, 20 years later, right? That takes 3 years to really get that started, so let's fast forward to 2003. And now we're an entitlement community. We start getting CDBG. We're over 50,000, so now we get 5307. That's a specific number in transportation of a certain type of urbanized funding. So we now get federal transit dollars sent to our community starting in 2003 to pay for public transportation. So instead of it being CART, now it is public transportation funded in whole and in part by the federal government. And so that continues at that point through a contract with Community Action. That continued with their real leadership and kind of guidance as that in 2003. And then as you move forward through that, we started to see the community continues to change and evolve and adjust, and the community continues to expand and pull, and the demand for public transit is probably greater now than it was in 1993. The demand for public transit continues to grow and evolve, and the resource to provide that service always continues to become more and more strained. Yes, the federal government is still involved. They're involved in the investment and resource side, but they're also involved heavily in the regulatory side, I promise you that. And so they become a bigger part of that. And in 2018, we said maybe there's a new way of doing this. And so we partnered with our local MPO. We did a study. Western Kentucky University was part of that study. The city of Bowling Green was part of that study. And we said, hey, what are some different ways we can do this to better serve the community in the name of service, in the name of service to our community? And so in 2020, we issued another RFP. And we awarded that to Community Action for Operations and RATP Dev USA for management. Y'all are familiar, you've seen Robert come up here many times. And we separated this management and operation piece in 2020 on a 3-year contract that was set to expire June 30th of this year. And so we knew that expiration date was looming. We knew that we had to say, what are we going to do come July 1? And so we had a conversation with our friends at WKU and their transit system, having 2 transit systems here in this community, and said, have you thought about us co-purchasing this service? They're already purchasing management services through RETP Dev. We're purchasing management services through RETP Dev. We're purchasing operation services through Community Action, and said, is there a way that we could bundle these 2 together, get economies of scale, and purchase this as a joint RFP between our 2 organizations, separate but joint, meaning they still have an independent transit system. There is still Topper Transit that will be paid for wholly by WKU, and there will be a GoBG public transit system that will be wholly paid for by the city of Bowling Green with our federal dollars that come along with it. But we are not mixing those 2 pots of money. We're each paying our part for our service. And so they said, yes, we're open to that idea. Now, I simplify that down, right? There's a lot of complications that go into that. But what I stand before you today is to make a recommendation on that shared procurement of services, that shared procurement of management, that shared procurement of operations, but also to understand that this didn't just happen because of an idea a few years ago, that the study that was done in 2018, the work, the vision that Community Action had 30 years ago, that this was a need and a resource that was lacking in our community. And I don't want that to be understated as we make this recommendation to move with RETP Dev for full management, full operations. Our award tonight is for the city award. WKU will have to do their own award process as their part of this joint RFP. We moved to an hourly rate model in 2020, so the clerk read off 97.31. That is what it cost us to run 1 hour of transit for 1 bus. That is our cost. That cost assumes all the driver wages, the vehicle maintenance, all the management, everything that goes to run that service. But if that bus runs for 1 hour, that's what we are billed. So you times that times 100, you can see how many hours that adds up to. We run about 18,000 hours a year. That is our 3-year average is 18,000 hours of service. That's a paratransit hour, that's a fixed rate hour, fixed route hour, my apologies. So ours is about 18,000 hours of service that we pay for as part of ours. WKU, based on the semester schedule, summer schedule, holidays, those types of things, runs at about 12,000 hours of service for their year. So they will be paying for their 12,000, we'll be paying for our 18,000 through a combination of the funds that you all provide through as local match, and also through the federal funding that we utilize from the FTA. And so tonight I stand before you not just to tell the story of the last 30 years, but also to lay the groundwork for the next 20, 15, 30 years of how public transit is delivered in this community and how we are providing it in my belief, in the right order, not forgetting where we came from, but where we need to go as a growing, dynamic, diverse community that continues to push forward in new directions and ensures that we provide the best possible service to our customers and our citizens and our residents as we can. And with that, I'll entertain any questions that you all might have.
Thank you. I understand it. Appreciate it, Brent. Commissioners?
So does this, combining these 2, does it help us save any money or?
So there is some overlap in savings. That's really on the management side, on that kind of top-end side, because you're sharing some of those top-end resources. It doesn't on the operational side because you still need drivers, right? The driver still has to drive a WKU bus just like has to drive one of our buses. So that the volume of drivers, that hour still has to be met. It does help on some of that top-end oversight stuff. And the other thing that we talking with RETP Dev, and I'll give a little bit of background, they've been doing public transit since 1900. That's 123 years ago. In Paris, France is where they originally started. They've been in the U.S. for about 25 years. So they have about 40 different systems across the U.S. that they provide transit management operation services for. And so that's their task is over the next couple of years as we're kind of bringing these 2 incongruent forces together of what are some of those other operational and management savings that we could see, because we want to deploy that back out into more units of service. So if we can reduce that hourly rate, that's more hours of service that we can provide at the same cost, and that's our goal. But it's really about getting a handle on where are those overlaps and where are those efficiencies better aligned?
My one last question is, we get a lot of feedback about our public transit not quite meeting the needs that people have, whether that's hours of service. You mentioned a little bit about hopefully this will help us expand how many hours we can provide transportation for our community. But will this also help us start creating space to improve services and sort of reach further into ways that we can create a transit system that is meeting the needs of our community?
That is the goal. That is often challenging in a very growing dynamic city. Over the last several years, you've seen several key transit destinations move outside of the transit service area. Those are forces outside of our control, any contractor's control, you all's control, right? Whenever a destination that should be on the transit moves out, that makes it even harder. So that is one caveat I will give you. One of the goals that we have is how can we best utilize that 18,000? If we know that that is our start, how can we best deploy that? And we've worked with our providers in the last few years, Community Action and RITBDF, to find better things. But I will tell you, whenever March of 2020 happened, you can look at our ridership data and it just fell off. And that was across the industry, across all transits. It doesn't matter if you're the New York subway, the DC Metro, everybody felt that same thing. And so it's been this slow grinding uptick to try to get back to where we were in ridership 3 years ago. And that has been a struggle. So we continue to fight that. We'll tell you, one other side of this is we've recognized that we need to do a better job of telling people that this service exists. And so we've been working through our MPO program. And this summer we will announce and fully display a full educational marketing campaign for public transit so people understand that it is available in this community, when it does run, where it does run, that you can ride any route that we have to a grocery store and back, that there is a grocery store on every route that we have, that you know how to navigate it, how it works, how it functions. We can tell that story. You can identify that that is a public transit bus in our community, and we see that. And over the last few years, we haven't done enough of that public education. There's some limiting factors in there, but those are just some of the methods that we've been working on to kind of get this going.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mr. Beasley Brown actually asked the question that I was going to ask. But do you believe, I guess, if we added some new routes, we could possibly get like new riders on there? And I don't know if that's something that we need to look at. That's my first question. My second question, have we ever thought about possibly allowing people to have advertisement on those GO buses so to alleviate some of the costs?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, new routes, yes, and it depends. So yes, new routes can add new riders. It depends because you have to be going into places where people are going to value transit, right? Where they're looking at it as a need. Not just new routes. Just because you drive more areas doesn't mean that you will have new riders. That is one piece of that. So you have to identify what are those areas where you feel like there is a more maybe transit-dependent population or a transit opportunistic population. It's kind of like sidewalk mapping that we do through our Public Works Department. Just because you build sidewalks doesn't mean people are going to walk on them. You got to build them where you think people will want to walk and want to go. So that is part of it, and so we've identified through another study the timing wasn't right to implement some rerouting of some of our things to open up some of those new areas where we feel like there's a concentration, there's an opportunity to increase ridership, but I also feel like that educational and outreach component will probably produce more than route realignment. Route realignment is a tough pickle. Community Action could tell you the specific dates, but I think somewhere around the 2015, 2016-ish, we did a route study and did it, and ridership tanked immediately. It didn't work. And so then they undid it, put it back, and it bounced back some. So route alignment is tough. It's a risk. Your question on advertising, go ahead. You want to follow?
The reason why I asked that is because I went in, I guess, to the forum, I guess, with our immigration population that was here. Mm-hmm. And it's not even just towards like our immigration population, but it could be like our population who are without a vehicle. Right. And one of the things that I kept hearing is basically we would like to have like some type of route, you know, a bus or a transit system. And I believe one of the gentlemen said when he was in Europe, it was easy to get to work, you know, get to their doctors and get to, other areas. So that's the only reason why I'm asking that, is because if we can offer those routes to get people to work, maybe people riding those transits or the bus system will go up.
And that's the goal. And so those are some of those things that we're looking at as part of that study. It just didn't feel like it was the right time to implement that, given the situation at hand. And we identified that as a target market for transit. That's something that we've talked about internally several times as some of these populations that may not even know what the buses out there mean, because they're hard to identify, they're hard to recognize. And that's where that education side of it comes in, because we as a community have really never invested in that. Advertising side, we do have an advertising program. We sell advertising space on the side of the buses, and that does go in to offset the overall cost, albeit small, but it does help offset some of that cost. So yes, we've been selling advertising space on buses for a lot of years.
I see Sumitomo on there quite often.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Childers. All right, so this is the continue whether we're going to combine our services. All right. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. All right, ordinance number BG 2023-6, our second reading is binding.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 18 Occupational License Fees and Taxes of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to revise the occupational license fees.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Perigin. This was a 2-2 split vote last time. We had one commissioner, she was handling, that was Sue Perigin. She was in Florida handling her mother's estate. So, and said goodbye to her as well. So this is up and open for public discussion as well tonight. If we do have public discussion or members that want to discuss this, it'll be up to 5 minutes, and so you can have an opportunity to address the commission tonight on this issue. Commissioners I just wanted to let the public know that this is open for their conversation as well on this item. Do we have anyone that would like to make a statement, or the Tuttles? Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson?
Well, I never thought that I'd be up here proposing a tax. It's not in my DNA. Having said that, there was a mention about some of the bus service. In Europe, where they have 50% taxes, they have all kind of good services. We are a very low-taxed municipality, a very low-taxed state, unfortunately, a very high-tax national government. What most citizens are looking for in government is integrity. We're very blessed with integrity in this community. We don't have instances of corruption, of waste. Our money is spent very carefully, and you gentlemen and ladies do a great job of that, protecting our interest. I've lived in a large municipality where there's a lot of waste and a lot of corruption. I'm happy to live in this community where there is not that problem. And we have good city government, really good. I know this is an unpopular stance for you as elected officials because taxes are never welcome. However, the quality of life is very dependent upon having good, wise expenditures for funds. Taxes are needed to support police and fire. I hear people complaining about traffic in Bowling Green, but because of the understaffing of our police department, they don't have a lot of time to do traffic enforcement. If we had more officers, we'd have better traffic enforcement. They're doing an awesome job with what they've got to work with. Low crime rates. I know that some nights our city is very understaffed on police and on the street. That's not their fault. It's the ability to have the funds to hire more police officers. And we heard earlier about the new fire and training facility. That's an expense today, but it's a savings in the future because our people won't have to go off to Richmond to be trained and have the expenses associated with that training that we no longer will have, plus the ability to do in-service training, which is very important. Our police department is very community-minded. That is, we don't have a lot of reports of any police abuse or mistreatment. They're always very courteous. They're extremely well-trained. They always give service with a smile. That's another thing. When you go to any unit of local, state, city government, you always get service with a smile. That doesn't happen in all communities. Sometimes they just resent you interfering with their break, you know. We are very blessed with public-minded servants. And I use that word servant because that's what a public official is supposed to be, a servant. Okay, I'll watch my time there a little bit.
Well, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay,
sir.
thanks. I very recently sold a home in Florida. That same home in Florida carries twice the property tax. I know this is an occupational tax issue, but they're all tied together. And I forget how many square miles these guys have to patrol in the city. It's
42 square miles.
42.
okay, yes. Now then, I'll point out one thing to you about taxes. We have a situation in Bowling Green and Warren County where we have a lot of property that is not on tax rolls, more than most communities on average. We have an airport that doesn't have to pay taxes right in the heart of the city, covers a lot of areas. We have Fairview Cemetery on Cemetery Road, maintained by our Parks and Recreation Department. We have Western Kentucky University, which pays no taxes, property taxes. And on it goes, our parks, Downtown Square Park, Circus Park, the park we just wanted to add a name to, and so forth. So we have a lot more property that's not on the tax rolls. But we benefit from all those properties, and I'm happy to have them. But that means that we all have to pay just a little bit more per person to cover the benefit of having these things. We have a wonderful downtown. Unlike a lot of downtowns are dying. Ours is very alert. I don't know about the ballpark, whether it pays taxes or not, but anyway, we have so many things in this community that so many communities this size don't have. We have 2 orchestras, 2 symphony orchestras, unheard of. Most urban areas can't even afford one, and we have one at Western and North Kentucky. We have so many benefits. This is a wonderful place to live. I'm here by choice. We have so many opportunities for our children. We have so many job opportunities, and we're getting more every day. And then I'll wrap it up, sir. I'll say one more thing. When we bring a new industry, which this community attracts because of all the things that we offer, orchestras, libraries, et cetera, they get an abatement on taxes for a few years. But after that abatement's gone, they add to our tax roll. So we're investing in that to get future taxes in the future. We have not had a property tax increase for ages. No other community can say that. In fact, we had a decrease, which partly contributed to the position we're in now. So I urge my friends, my commissioners, out of all due respect, take the risk of irritating some taxpayers. I'm going to pay more on this tax than most of you. You know, I got to lose. And so I don't sound like a hypocrite. I just got a new notice that they're raising the assessment on my property. I'm going to go down and ask for an abatement on that because I don't agree with the assessment. But I'm not agreeing with the rates on my taxes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Let's please keep this the most wonderful community, I think, in the country to live in. We have great relations with all of our minorities, with all of our people. We are an immigration resettlement community. We're absorbing all of that. We're doing an awful lot with the taxes we pay, and I'm happy to pay them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Gary Dillard, and thank you
Gary,
much.
I'm going to reset you here, so
Sir?
I'm going to start you fresh right there, Mr. Dillard.
You mean leave and come back?
You just ate some time there. Sorry. You may start, Mr. Dillard.
Okay. My name's Gary Dillard. I've been involved in this community for close to 50 years now. It's hard to believe. We have always had champions in this community. Warren Central's basketball team is just one example. Our city commission and our city form of government has proven itself ever since it became a city manager form of government back in the 60s. Before that, it was something else. But as Jim Johnson just said, we've had integrity, we have honesty, we have an honest police force, we have a great fire department. They're all winners. They've always been winners. And to make them winners, to keep them winners, we must keep financing into the future. And from what I understand, that this 0.5% will take care for 20 years. If that's true, you don't have anything to worry about. Now think about the new fire station is going to Transpark, the fire station and training facility on Porter Pike, millions of dollars, not only to build, but the personnel, the equipment. We need it all. And some people say, well, what about occupational tax? Look at all the industry we've had. Yes, I've been on these economic development boards, and our chamber has done an excellent job. But it takes, because of incentives, it takes a number of years to realize that income. So I'm just saying for the future of our great fire department and police department and training academies, we're always at the top. We're always making the lead, that we truly recognize what the needs are for the future, that we can sustain the leadership and credibility that we have in this community. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
I want to clarify one thing. The proposal is 0.15 of 1 cent. Yeah. There's a 5 in there, but it's 0.15.
If I could just add one more thing.
I don't know if you can.
Taxes sometimes are a tax saver. There was a time the city of Bowling Green had a low fire rating. And we paid a lot more on our homeowners insurance, a whole lot more on our business insurance. We, some years back, passed an increase so that we could properly fund our fire departments, build facilities, and equipment, et cetera, et cetera. The cost on that was more than overcome by the savings on our fire insurance. If we were to have to cut back and lose some of this fire rating we have, the insurance companies will raise our rates, possibly more than the tax increase would amount to. And keeping crime rates down is a tremendous saving for everybody. When I have less theft on my car lot because of good police patrolling and so forth, that's an expense I don't have. And it's also an insurance cost saving. That's sad, but a tax increase may not cost us more in the long run.
All right, I'm going to open up the floor for more people in the audience.
Evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Mr. Meisel. I almost decided not to attend the public comment section of this meeting. Those with the authority to make decisions for our city have already made statements indicating how they would vote about the proposed tax increase. A friend even asked me, well, what's the point? I'm here because it's important to publicly state that there are quite a few people who do not agree with the idea of raising the occupational tax. Presentations to community groups over the past few months appeared to have one agenda: to sell a tax hike. They didn't appear to be any interest in considering alternative ideas. There was simply one message: bad things will happen if we don't raise taxes. Fear might be a persuasive tool for some, but I'm not afraid. It's not a bad thing to critically examine a budget and justify every expense. To postpone projects that are not critical to city services, to think beyond hiking taxes as a means of covering expenses. That's what our family does. If we don't have enough money, we don't eat steak. We eat beans and rice. And we certainly don't eat steak and ask someone else to pay for it. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the forum, Commissioners. I come to you tonight as a businessman, one who moved my company here 7 years ago, and one who's looking at a recession. In November of last year, I had 20 companies solicit proposals from my organization for new work. Since that time, 12 of those have been withdrawn. Not given to other companies, not sent somewhere else because we're not competitive. They've been withdrawn. So when I look at that, I'm tightening my belt. I'm looking around saying, I'm in pretty good shape. My company's at the top of its sphere, but we're not raising our rates even though we probably should. Why? Because we have to be competitive even if the companies we're competing against aren't better than we are. Because we're fighting those other companies who are lowering their rates because there's less business. Now, I've heard justifications with regard to this tax increase that it's $100 on a family that makes $100,000. Interestingly enough, that is not $100 of core money that they're spending. It's not that they're not going to be able to spend money to pay their rent. It's not that they're not going to be able to spend money to pay their electric bill. There may be some who might be in that space, but probably not. But what it does mean is that couple's probably going to go to town once less this year. They're not going to go to the businesses out here and buy dinner. That impacts this local economy. When you take 50,000 people, 20,000 families, and you say every one of those families isn't going to go to dinner once, or isn't going to go out on the town, or isn't going to buy drinks, because this money comes out of their excess. Mr. Johnson, I appreciate your opinion. I, like you, I'm going to pay more than $100. The thing is I can afford it. There's a lot of people in this town that can't. And so when you start talking about raising that tax, it has an influence. The second thing is Kentucky has been faced with, since Martha Lane Collins in the 80s, a significant disadvantage with Indiana and Tennessee. Why? Their total taxation rates are 2.5 points below ours. Not a problem that Bowling Green can necessarily solve. The state government has to solve part of that. But it's interesting to note the growth in this city since that tax rate was reduced some 10 to 15 years ago. And now you're going to flip it. You're going to take that back out, and you're going to take that money back out of the economy. And I'll tell you, small businessmen who have the choice to live in the county or live in the city are going to look at that $1,000 or $1,500 or $3,000 they're going to pay the city, and they're not going to move here. They're going to move out there. Or they're going to get a P.O. box out there, and that's where their company's going to be. Because the higher that rate is, the more people will avoid that taxation. That's all I have to say. I understand this is a tough decision. I understand I've had to fire people, good people in large companies that I didn't want to do. I've had to make cuts. I've had to take out the garbage in my own office. I've had to get rid of plants in my offices because my company was struggling. Not this company, but with companies like IBM and American Standard and Prudential Healthcare. It's tough. But when times are tough, good leaders make tough decisions. That's what they get paid for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, I was sent,
Commission, so is there anyone from the audience that would like to address the commission? I just wanted to make sure that we have. Okay, thank you. Commissioners, that's open for
sorry about that.
continued debate.
I was sent an email from a citizen that couldn't make it here today that asked me to read this on their behalf, local.
Yes, commissioners have.
Is that okay?
Commissioners have all the time.
Okay.
They necessarily
So
need.
this particular gentleman's name is Mr. Stan England. He's been a community leader for as long as I can remember. He was instrumental in the Boys and Girls Club for a long, long time and probably still is. Stan was motivated. He was sent an email with all of our addresses, and I think everybody got this email. He called today. He wanted to come. He couldn't. Somebody got sick in his family, so he asked me on behalf of his grandchildren, is what he asked me to read this on, because as he stated, he's got many less days in the future than he has had in the past, and he's concerned with his grandchildren. So I can appreciate that. So I'm just going to read this. It's very short. I received the below information concerning an upcoming vote on a tax increase. I am of the opinion that our city needs to be prepared more than ever before to continue essential services as we continue to grow, especially police and fire protection. One must remember we are the city we are today because we have allocated adequate funds for essential services. I think a yes vote is not a vote for today, but for Bowling Green's future. Thank all of you for serving our city as a public servant. Stan England. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perigin. Commissioners, still open for debate.
I'll go after you guys go. I'm gonna let you guys go.
Oh, wait.
I'm gonna let you guys go.
As the citizens of this community know and people in the audience know, tonight's a tough decision. But I want to remind our citizens of what this commission has done since the beginning of this fiscal year. All of these were 5-0 votes. All of these are what I'm going to call feel-good things. Bathroom renovations. Sloan Convention Center. Purchase of a fire engine. Energy savings contract. New HVAC units for all of our city buildings, city facilities. Purchase of police vehicles. Crosswinds irrigation system to replace it. Ashley Circle intersection improvements. Construction of Fire Station 8. Police and fire pay increases. Tonight, a 5-0 vote. Another fire station and a police and fire training center. All of those projects, once again, 5-0 vote. Why was it easy for all of us to vote 5-0? Over $31 million for those projects. So I encourage us, it's not easy. Let's be the leaders we were elected to be. Let's take care of this community for the future. We've received emails, they've asked us to tighten our belts. For our citizens, you can't ask for a more frugal management team than what you have in place in the city of Bowling Green. We have the best. As I said last meeting, I'm doing this for our people in blue, for our firefighters, for our sidewalks, for our streets, for my grandchildren, everyone's grandchildren, our management team. I want Bowling Green to continue to be the best.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner would like to talk?
You can go first.
Yeah, I'm going to just read something because I can go all over the place on this one, and there'd be no end to what we could talk about as far as this great community. It would never end. So I'm just going to read my talking points, and first I want to apologize for missing the last meeting and the first reading of this ordinance. I did actually place my mother's ashes in with her World War II Marine husband in the National Cemetery, Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. So that was, I think, a good reason for missing a meeting, but, you know, some might not. This is my 5th term serving the citizens of Bowling Green with 3 terms as your mayor pro tem. For all these terms and years, I've had a one-track mind, and that is to vote for what I believe is best for the city and the future. Not once have I placed a vote to garner political capital for myself or others. I vote for what I believe is best. I do not vote for a vote. I come to these conclusions using hard data and the expertise of trusted others to include our outstanding city staff, elected officials, and citizens' input, most importantly. I am put here to represent what's best for the future of Bowling Green, not just what is most popular. And as Belinda said, this is probably the hardest vote we've ever had to make. For me, it is. As a conservative, I'm wired to believe in minimizing government. I'm wired to believe in minimizing the cost of government to those it serves while maximizing benefits and services. I'm wired that way, have been my life. Our community is a testament to conservative government. We have a very low cost per citizen with a high return by the quality of life. Our public safety is second to none, thanks to fine people like Penny and the Chief, their leadership. We have great parks and recreation system. Our infrastructure is strong and getting stronger. We're growing and prospering with many high-paying jobs available across many economic sectors, and we can thank the volunteers like Gary Dillard and Mr. Johnson and lots of other people for that. Much of the benefit of these new jobs will be realized in the next decade and beyond. The bottom line is it's a great community to live, worship, play, and raise a family. There comes a time when we must look towards the future and ensure the quality of life that we all appreciate and enjoy. That must take precedence. In 2007, the Commission voted to lower our occupational tax from 2% to 1.85. This Commission is merely taking us back to where we were and where we knew we needed to be. The city staff, a lot of them sitting right here, have lived with that vote for more than 15 years now, and it's caught up to us with the high levels of inflation and the cost of operating this city. Like many other organizations, we must adjust our budget to meet the reality of the economic situation currently and for the future. With 49 cents of each dollar going to police and fire, that's public safety, that leaves 51 cents out of every dollar for the rest of the organization. Recruiting has become a major issue for our policing agency, as it has across the country for a variety of reasons. And we just heard from Assistant Chief Bowles that $16.1 million that we're investing in a police and fire training facility and a fire department is making huge impacts on our ability to recruit, and the dollars that we spend in training that we have to send folks up to Richmond for 40 weeks, is it? 24 weeks, excuse me. That's expensive. We're going to realize savings over time by spending that money. We must fully fund our police and fire and remain competitive with wages, as well as provide the needed equipment for them to ensure our safety. This costs money. That money comes in the form of taxes. Occupational tax is what fuels the majority of our city. Bringing us back to where we came from is a minimal ask, and I will be voting in favor of the future of our city. As I watched the last meeting, I watched that online, I was struck by the couple who came forward during public comments. The couple had come before the commission several months prior and expressed concern for criminal and suspicious activity in their neighborhood near Parkview, over Morgantown Road area. The Bowling Green Police Department responded to their concerns, and I thank you very much, and patrolled, policed, and impacted that level of activity. The couple came back to speak at the last meeting and addressed the commission and our police department with words of praise for the positive impact they have made in the Parkview area. We simply will not be able to provide that level of impact and service without the necessary resources. We will not be able to be responsive at levels that we as a community have come to expect. I've had several emails in favor of us back to the previous 2% occupational tax. I've also had several against. The main solution from those that are against is to tighten the belt, do more with less. We've been doing more with less for the last 15 years. It's simply become non-sustainable to keep the level of services without the needed resources. As earlier stated, 49 cents of the budget goes to police and fire. That would be the logical place to cut back on the place that you're spending the most. Does Bowling Green really want to cut our public safety agencies? I don't believe that to be true. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We heard today that there's $31 million jobs, and I have a written statement as well. But the thing that we didn't hear about, and we're also saying we're going back to what it was, like, I guess, more than 15 years ago. What we haven't told is that when that commission voted for it to be 2%, the tax rate, the occupational tax rate was actually 1.5%. Then a new commission came in 2007. They didn't go back to 1.5%, but they went to, I think, either 1.85% or at least 1.9%. Now, out of that $31 million that we did, it was 5-0. We also used our wisdom to kind of make sure that we were using ARPA money to offset some of those costs. That's not the only cost that we're talking about. I heard from this gentleman, he was talking about the abatements. But the thing is that some of those employers do get the abatements, but some of those employees are basically getting the cost of those abatements. So they have to pay those costs. And I've heard many people from all walks of life, in person, and on emails, just telling me this is gonna hurt them. This is gonna hurt them when they have to go to the doctor. All costs are going up, and I have to listen to them. And the inflation that's going up, that's gonna hurt them on groceries are going up. Gas is going up. If they're renting, rent is going up. If they have a mortgage, if it's an adjustable mortgage, the mortgage is going up. If they're a business owner, a small business owner, it's hurting them at this time. So when we hear those things, I have to look at those things and listen to everybody, including the experts, but also listen to the people. So to me, here's my written statement. It's unfair. It's unfair to assume that those who vote no on occupational tax to increase do not care about funding for public safety. There may be valid reasons for voting no, such as concerns that impact the citizens and small business owners who will be upholding the bag to pay the increase in a time of economic inflation and turmoil. I heard from those many citizens personally, and I understand this is not the time to increase our occupational tax when gas, food, and housing prices are going up. Furthermore, it's important to recognize that supporting city employees and first responders goes beyond just one vote on a tax increase. As a leader, it is crucial to have a comprehensive plan for funding and supporting our public safety personnel, including fair wages, adequate training, and necessary resources, which we all agree with, which is why I was one, not the only one, but from the very beginning, I was one of those city commissioners of the Board of Commissioners who actively advocated for hero pay and an increase in wages for our public servants to make sure that those public servants had a competitive pay so we can have new police officers who will be working for Bowling Green for our city. Ultimately, it's concerning that some members of this Board of Commission dismiss any dissenting votes as a political without understanding or considering the validity of opposing viewpoints. This kind of rhetoric undermines democracy and cannot lead to a lack of trust in our elected officials. We should not be swayed by the idea that voting no is an easy vote. The easy vote is to be a rubber stamp. The easy vote is not to listen to anyone and just basically say, this is the way I'm gonna vote, and not consider all viewpoints and then turn around and blast anyone who votes no or differently. Instead, the harder vote. The harder vote is to carefully consider all perspectives and make the best informed decision you can make that prioritizes the well-being of our community and our public safety personnel. We have thousands of jobs that have not been filled yet. And we know when the Tyson plant comes, when that glass plant comes, when the battery plant comes, that's gonna basically help build up some of the revenue that we're talking about right now. This is not the time. It may be a time in the future, but this is not the time when we're in a time of inflation to vote yes on it. So I am a vote of no.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So it has been very humbling, and it's been quite a learning experience, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be one of 5 people sitting in these seats to make this decision. It's a big responsibility, and I don't take it lightly. And after working with my fellow commissioners and the mayor over the last few years, I know that we all share a love for this city. And whether we vote yes or no tonight on this issue, I know that we're all voting for what we believe is the right thing for this city and its future. I take every vote that I make here seriously, and especially a vote to raise taxes. Based on my work in this community over the last few years and confirmed by the numerous emails and calls, I can tell you that with rising inflation on everything from food to housing, that this past year has been one of the hardest for working families trying to make ends meet. There is no margin. And I have seen the same impact on small businesses. They are working hard to survive after a few hard years, and they are worried, like you heard just a few moments ago, about the uncertainty of the economy ahead. We get financial reports from the City of Bowling Green, and I read every number and chart on those reports, and I am so grateful that the City of Bowling Green is in a healthy financial position. To our city staff, I'm so grateful for the job that you do. I see how hard you work to save money and work to run the city as efficiently as possible. We are in a great financial position despite the challenges over the last few years because of your stewardship and your leadership. I am also really proud of the work that we have done with the county and the Chamber of Commerce on economic development, which will bring in thousands of new jobs with over $1 billion economic impact over the next decade. Because of the city's financial stewardship and our nationally recognized economic development work, we have an opportunity, and I also believe a responsibility, to give our citizens and small businesses a buffer to fully recover from the last few years and the uncertainty ahead. And so that is why I'm voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to read just a narrative out of a letter that was given to me a minute ago. A person that was going to be here. This is from Mike Murphy, CEO of Murphy Construction Group. He says, "In my opinion, I'll guarantee you my associate employees would say the same thing. The occupational tax should have never been cut 15 years ago. But at that time, the City Commission and their professional staff were just trying to pass on the present savings we're enjoying at the time. In addition, they've tried not to increase the tax over 15 years, which versus other similar sized cities are unheard of. Check any other city our size with the benefits it delivers to our community. Dollar for dollar, you will see that every occupational tax have increased regularly over their 15 years. We are also fortunate to live in a community that continues to grow and is accomplished with the continuation of influx and expanding businesses. Representing a longtime community of hundreds of employees, we fully support doing our small part and support and paying our fair share, returning Bowling Green city occupational tax to its rate of years ago. This is no way a truly hardship or sacrifice when you compare risk versus reward. Commissioners, thank you for your hard work and good business sense and continue to run one of the most fantastic cities in America. Thank you to the city staff, born and raised in Bowling Green, proud of it, Michael Murphy." What I will state, and I may have been unfair, maybe this isn't about politics. Maybe this is true, heartfelt, doing what's right from each of the commissioners. I will tell you, the yes vote is extremely difficult because the commission that took that rebate, $51 million, back to our community was my brother, Mark Alcott, commissioner on this board. It was Brian Stroud, and the third vote was Slim Nash. Dinner at my family is interesting, especially now. I love my brother, and he loves me, and we'll continue to have a strong relationship. But we disagree on this issue. This is a tough time, so maybe you'll want, and maybe I'll be wrong. As I run again for mayor, maybe I won't see this. Maybe it won't be political. That's possible, but I doubt it. Bottom line is, this is about making a tough call. It's about making the right decision. It's not about having more. It's about having what's necessary to be successful. And in the military, you never send your people downrange without being ready or equipped or fully furnished with everything they need to be able to fight the fight. We are not fighting the fight. We are behind. our police officers are 20 down. We need 80 more between police and fire in the next 4 years. We have to be ready and operational. The rebates that we get, we will see them, some in 30 years. They'll come back to Bowling Green, and I believe in 30 years we'll make a different decision, but we're talking about for the next 10 years. How will we keep up? How will we maintain? You know, you look at a budget. What are we doing to save money? Yes, we put ARPA dollars. 10 million was the max amount that we were able to put. We put towards our budget so we didn't have to borrow for the new fire stations that we just approved tonight in the last commission meeting. We have increased our police pay, which goes in effect on 1 July from $51,500 to $61,000. That extrapolates up the ranks to the highest rank that we have, and that's Chief Delaney. That's to be competitive. That's to retain, because we removed the 57 rule, and then ensure that we will have the police force necessary to be able to take care of a rapidly growing community. We have a reactive police force. They're great, they're fantastic, but we are not able to call upon our police at any one given second at our rapid growth if we don't do something about it, and we are doing something about it. And those are the easy things to say yes on what we need, but how we get it are the hard things on how we go about it. I'm proud of this community. I'm proud of this commission. I understand each of us sit up here and we are pouring our heart into our community and serving our community in our own way, and I respect that from all 4 commissioners. I really mean that. Whether this divides us or whether this unites us, we know what's necessary to get the job done because we're all voting yes on those items. This is the tough call. This is the toughest call, and this may cost me, but I will always do the right thing. Thank you, commissioners. Without any further discussion, roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
No.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
No.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2023-7, second readings binding.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 3 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Perigin. This was a 5-0 vote at the last commission meeting. Unless there's any new discussion at this time. There's none. Roll call, please.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our meeting for tonight. Our next scheduled meeting will be May 16th at 2023. We are adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry. We are checking for comments. We're not yet adjourned. Is Ernest Williams here or would like to address the rezoning? He's not here. I haven't seen anyone in a while, so we are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.